going into Griffin on the left.
No, sir.
All right, well, you know, this not only affects Woodbury, it affects the whole area. And there gonna be people there that, you know, Section 8, whatever, I mean, they say they're not going after Section 8, but Section 8 will pay up to whatever they need to pay. And these developers look for places that are far enough away from schools and churches where they can put pedophiles and sex offenders and everybody else in there. I mean, yeah, y'all think I'm crazy about saying this, but you don't see any of them anywhere close to a church or a school, anywhere else. That's the reason they want that property out there. It's far enough away. And that's what you're gonna have in here, and it's gonna affect not only Woodbury, but the whole area. That's about all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Candy egg.
Candy, get,
You want me to come up there?
yeah, that's
All
good.
right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have a really loud voice.
Go for it.
I think most of you have heard me speak before, and I don't have a problem reaching back around. I will say that a lot of the things that I wondered about have been addressed, so that's a positive. I will also say, most of you know me as a historic preservationist, and so you assume that I would be totally against anything that's gonna change the complexity of where I live, and that's not true either. What bothers me most about this is like, we've been through some really turbulent times in this town in the last 10, 15 years after 20, 30 years of constant decline. And this is like the first shiny thing that's come along. And it's like we're grabbing at the first shiny thing that comes along. And we're looking at this and not thinking about what's over here and down the road. I know that this has been presented as a sequential thing, and it sounds, you know, on the surface, it sounds really good. But we really need to think about what it means, because if it's totally built out and everything, it means twice the size, twice the number of people who live here now. And regardless of traffic studies, and you can all that all day long, it's gonna mean a more frenetic lifestyle. And most of the people who live here, or a lot of the people who live here, and a lot of the people who are coming here now, are coming specifically to get away from that, period, over and out. You know, whether that's for good or bad, I'm just making a statement. And so, you know, when we're thinking about this, we need to think not only about our infrastructure that can't support what we have now, but we need to think about the quality of life that we have and what we want to have 10, 15, 20, 30 years. I mean, when we're gone, you know, what that's gonna be like. Do we wanna be Sonoy? Do we wanna be Peachtree City? Because once you do this, you're moving in that direction. This will just be the first. This will just be the first. You know, you can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig.
I'll try. Those who know me know I talk. I moved here from Detroit, Michigan 2 years ago, bought a home. I love Woodbury. I love the people in Woodbury. I have a Facebook group, City of Woodbury News and Updates. I'm so glad everybody is here. I have a lot of questions and concerns. With what Charles said, I work with Pulte Homes. I know that builders and developers can also do a sex registry check and qualifications for their residents. and background checks for the residents, so that is something you might want to consider if that is something that the residents are concerned about. I am concerned about the water infrastructure, I'm concerned about the crime, I'm concerned about the doubling of the population with one project. I'm concerned about the schools, because you may call and they say, oh yeah, we can accommodate 300 new students or 200 new students, and a year down the road, all the property tax people are gonna have this millage rate or increase because Manchester can't accommodate. Now we have more buses, we gotta hire new people, and now all the taxpayers are going to be actually kind of footing the bill for this project. Because if the water infrastructure is not that great now, and you guys are putting in something, and the main keeps breaking, and they keep having issues from the main, and it has to push out to your actual community, then we're gonna have issues there. Now the people within the city are gonna have to pay that extra. So now it's putting that burden on the homeowners, it's putting the burden on the residents throughout the year, throughout the years, or however long it'll take. I like the aesthetics. I mean, it looks very nice. I do see that you guys put a lot of work into it, but you're doubling the population. And that is such a huge concern for a small town. And it's right in the city, it's not outside, you know, where people have a little more, you know, there's so much traffic involved, and there's so much people just being put right in one spot. That is a concern too. So those are my concerns. I mean, we have to have a police department up and going to make sure that there are no issues when you put an extra 300-400 people. We need the water infrastructure good. We need to make sure the school systems are good. And we don't want that burden put on to all of the homeowners in this area. That's all. Thank you.
Oh, you got, okay, that's all the people that signed up, but anybody can speak. So everybody else wants to speak? Okay.
I have a question about, would we be able to open the elementary, middle school, or whatever that school was, we've only been here 2 years. Would we be able to open that again?
I don't know, that would
Instead of busing
be-
everybody to Manchester?
That would be something that would be addressed later on. Yeah, that's a good question. Keep in mind, this is a town hall meeting, this is here just for your information. So,
I got a question.
okay,
Where are these people gonna work? Woodbury has no industry. Are they gonna travel an hour each way to come here to Woodbury? That's
Steve,
just a good question.
you want to address that?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Great question, sir. So, a couple of things. Number one, this is a phased development. So we would construct anywhere between 7 to 26 units per year based on the phasing, and based on there was a need, and we saw the market demand. So once we got one section leased up and full, we could then move to the next section. We've also looked at employment centers within driving distance of this, and there are a large number of employment centers within an easy drive of the site. Most closely Zebulon, Barnesville, and Thomaston, all of which have employment centers. Another thing is that as this development builds out and there are more residents, families, and rooftops here, they're bringing more of their income back home, which then creates more of the jobs at home in the city where they can then spend those dollars. So rooftops drive commercial development, drives commercial jobs. So it's a domino effect. In other words, once you have folks that are bringing money home with their jobs, then, you know, maybe a new restaurant opens, or, you know, they might work or go to a nearby business or store or something like that, and that in turn drives jobs where some of the residents can work.
You didn't answer the question. Sorry to interrupt you. I drive every day to Tyrone, which is above History City, 1 hour each way.
So you're
Gas
an
is
example.
$3.50 a gallon. Right now, and depending on who wins the election, no matter what it's gonna be. I can't afford an electric car. And these people in these apartments aren't gonna be able to afford an electric car either. There's no jobs in Thomaston. There's no jobs. LaGrange maybe has a few jobs, which is an hour drive. So you're expecting these people are gonna move here out in the country, no school, no industry. Well, what kind of tenants are you expected to get?
That's a
What kind
good
of
question.
rent are
What's
you
the
gonna charge?
qualifications that you're gonna have for these? Is it gonna be Section 8 housing?
No, it's not Section 8, so they're all gonna be at market rent. To the lady's comment before, we have no intent to, this is not targeted towards, you know, folks that have criminal history, heaven forbid, sex offenders, you know, I don't want to address the pedophilia comment, but we're not looking to have, you know, a community of halfway houses. That's not what this is. We're looking for quality residents that, again, are gonna maintain it. We're not selling these. The applicant is going to own these, ideally for the entire life cycle of these buildings. So the idea is to have quality residents. If you have one bad apple living in one house, the next door neighbor who is a school teacher or a firefighter or a police officer isn't gonna wanna live next door to the bad apple. So it is in our best interest to make sure that every resident is a quality resident. And we're not doing, we haven't applied for them, we're not accepting Section 8, these are market rent, or will be market rent units. And so, but again, as to the jobs, that's one of the reasons for the phasing of the development. As the need for these units comes over the next almost 2 decades, it's a slow progression. We just want to be upfront and show you what the development is going to look like over the next 20 years as we build it out. And we're asking for these 2 variances so that we can make this development, which is permitted, which can be built presently, but we're just asking for the 2 variances so that we can make it the best we possibly can as it's built out over, you know, the next 15 years.
So your first phase is here, your second phase is there. Is that within the first, it's 2026,
7, 8.
Okay, so how many is in that first phase of 2026 total?
Yeah, and these are illustrative, but you know, this is I think 26, and we get all the way down to this is 8.
So you start at 26, or townhouses,
These have a townhouse component along the frontage,
okay?
and then in the rear are those
Duplexes,
correct that you saw with the
Okay.
driveways in the front, and so you know,
so your first year you start at 26, your next year is another 26.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. Yeah, I mean about.
Okay.
Yeah, and
We want to see the progression of how many residents are coming in and how quickly.
right.
Okay.
So I mean, it might make sense for the first to be these frontage ones, or you know, just what the market dictates.
Steve, when you're saying, talking about phasing this in over a period of time, is there a certain number that you're willing to guarantee that won't be built out over past the first year and the next year? Or is, if this calls for it in 1 year, you're putting 70, 100 in 1 year?
It's not going to be 70 or 100.
Is that possible? If
No,
it calls
70
for
or
it,
100 is not possible.
If you get, okay, so if you get them rented, are you gonna continue to move on during that same year if you get past that 26 that you mentioned on the start?
I mean, it's not going to be year over year, but here's the idea: is you don't want vacant units on the ground. So as you build, you know, we'll build a section, let that fill up. And to the other gentleman's point, it's not like you put all of them on the ground and then, like a Kevin Costner movie, these folks are just going to show up, right? It's slowly, incrementally. So as we put those on the ground, as they fill up, as they get to 90% occupancy, 80% occupancy, something like that, you make a call that, hey, there's the need for these additional units. And that might not be the first year. We might do phase 1 and then it might be 2 years. And then we jump into the next one.
But it could be 1 year and go and continue into the next.
Yeah, but it's not gonna, we know based on experience, it's not gonna be 70 the first year. We know and we're gonna do them in the phases that make sense. And that's what this plan right here is intended to show, is what the most logical phase and sections are. So if we were we said, hey, what does the biggest chunks look like? But to your point, in year one, if we say, hey, it took 18 months, not 12, for an example, to fill phase one, well, hey, in phase two, let's split phase two into A and B, because we saw a slower uptick than was expected. That's why we did the phasing plan, because you can't put all of them on the ground and then expect renters to come out of the field, right?
So you're not willing to say that you won't continue to move forward, is what I'm asking. If you build those out in that first year and they're leased out, and you won't continue to move forward with them. And I'm looking at the possibility of putting all the stress on our town at one time, just like what you said. And another issue, one other question I had was, is all of this in the city or part of it in the county?
All of this is in the city.
Can I ask why you didn't utilize the property in the county also?
Because this is already a large 15-year build-out, or 15-year project. It doesn't make, this is a lot to look at now. And you've got some dividing features here, such as the creek. It just makes sense to look at this now. Now, 15 years from now, once this is built, will we look at the potential for what can be done on the other property, in other properties outside the county? Yeah. But, if we're then looking at 40 years out, it doesn't make sense to earmark it now. As this grows, as everything else changes, and we know China changes development, I mean, look at how we've gone, the death of brick and mortar, right, to Walmart, Amazon. I mean, things change over decades. Something entirely different could make sense elsewhere.
Yeah, I have-
Do you have a,
So, what are these lots? He wants to know how big the lots are.
They're 24 by 100 foot roughly.
24 by 100, but the idea here is, it's because it's all, since we own them all, they're going to be platted to where they can be individually sold at the end of the life cycle. But the idea is to have more of those common areas outside, as you see scattered throughout, to be the amenity area, the outside area, the play area, things like that.
individually sold as condos?
So, I don't think that they'd be like a condo deck. Condo declaration, but it's kind of the same thing. It'd really be fee simple. We would sell them fee simple, so you would own the lot. That's one of the reasons.
So you're giving ownership to,
Right, if we switched, at the end of the life cycle.
Stephen, I'm gonna ask everyone who wants to speak to address me, get my attention. I know this fellow standing
Sorry.
back here had his hand up for a while, so we'll let you ask a question, and then anybody else ask a question, just let me know that.
I just had, if you approve everything you want, how many total dwellings are you looking at?
So that's a good question. This project is 278 dwellings. If both variances are denied, that doesn't change our ability to build on this project. That means that you arbitrarily divide a line down the middle and.
But still, you're talking about 278, almost 300 residents. And if every home has 2 vehicles minimum, you're talking 600 vehicles in our town when this is done. Can we handle 600 vehicles at the gas station right here on the corner? No.
So that's not tomorrow.
Well, still, and also, have you researched other towns this kind of a rental development is in at the crime rate in them towns?
Well, we're not them. We're a local developer.
We're fixing to be them.
No,
It just gets approved.
I meant we're not those developers, we're not those owners. The owner is local, the owner is based in Sonoy. We have a vested interest to be here. This is not the owner's only property in Meriwether County. Triple C Management has other property. We're not going anywhere. We're gonna own this over the life cycle. We have no interest and crime and low rent
Just-
and
yeah,
bad folks. And so, can I,
Okay.
and then as to traffic, you're talking incremental. So to your point about the number of cars, you're looking at year one, and that's just to build this phase out. Doesn't mean all those homes are gonna be built and occupied.
70-some houses in the first year.
No.
We're still talking about 200
Said
vehicles.
7 to 26 per phase. So if you're looking at a phase that's 7, you're looking at those 14 cars over a 24-hour cycle along a state route. I mean, that's a very incremental increase. And if you're looking at
Drastic increase, and
14, that's less than one in it.
well, you're not gonna build 14 houses.
That's how we got the phasing divided. We're
You're talking
not,
about at least 2 vehicles per house. Everyone has 2 vehicles, minimum. So, that,
I'm gonna ask everybody who wants to speak, come to the podium. And we're gonna time,
thanks, sir.
podium over here, and we're gonna time you when you get up here. Stand in line if you want to.
hey, what is the market rent from down here? What is the market rent?
So we don't,
If you're gonna go by Atlanta, Illinois,
we have to let the,
what is the market rent for this down here?
Mr. Rebel, you want to speak, get in line, please.
Okay. Given if your variances and everything goes through like you want it to, when do you expect it to break ground? Because our property is directly connected to your project.
okay, where are you, sir?
Your main entrance, if you go to the left, the first property.
Okay,
So we're right up against it.
that would be year one. I mean, 2026 would be phase one.
Okay, that's when you be breaking ground, 2026.
Yes, sir.
Few folks that not sure what that is, a lot of people know it as a junk house. But that's the main question we had is 2026. And phase one, we think probably be done at what point?
27, but then you
The horizontal construction and vertical construction, 12 months after that, so probably 28.
28 for the first house, has somebody move in.
And there's a 50-foot buffer, so he's, this out here?
Yes.
Yeah, so just, there's a 50-foot buffer that's undisturbed that would be between this development and your property, along the road, and then behind it, which is, there's nothing proposed, except there is one pond, a detention pond that we'll have to build, and other than that, everything else.
It's all reviewed and we're not back here, so.
Yeah, it's the, kind of the top of the string there, but that's the area here. And then beside you here, in addition to the 50-foot, you can see that area right there, there's no development proposed there. So really, you only have like 3 lots that would be in close proximity to you, and they would still be, the buildings themselves would be almost 100 feet from it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
So we just moved here from Forsyth County, which has exploded in growth. And that's not the main reason why we moved. But one of the things that we noticed up there was that the community was not as engaged, right? They were not as engaged as this. Y'all are very engaged. We just got here. We met a ton of people, but y'all need to grow. Like, there's nobody coming in to the shops unless they're coming in from outside of the city. And like, we're thinking about we're opening up a store in town, and we've been watching the foot traffic, and it's just not there. And there's plenty of opportunity to grow slow with y'all paying attention. You're all paying attention. You're watching all of this happen. It's an opportunity, not just for people to come in, but for families to come in. There's already crime here. There's already houses here that need to be worked on. The people that come in to rent for a couple of years will save up to buy. They'll want to stay because y'all are such a welcoming community. They're gonna want to buy homes here eventually. We lived in a Pulte development that was phased over 15 years. We watched our area grow steadily But some of the people just weren't engaged enough to get people to stop the development. This is doubling the size of your town over 18 years. Is that what it was? 15 years? You're gonna do that anyway. People are gonna come in and buy land and build homes, and it's gonna happen anyway. This is an opportunity for y'all to get engaged with a community that could potentially bring you revenue. You could get the revenue to fix the water, to fix the roads, that kind of thing. Those are all things that are beneficial for the area. It doesn't have to happen, it's not happening quickly. And I do have a question, what amenities are y'all planning on putting in?
So we've got 2 amenity areas, well, we actually got 4 amenity areas in the passive park. The idea would be to have various walking trails throughout, playgrounds, pavilions, bonfire kind of deal, like that. And to scatter those throughout all 5 passive areas.
And then when you start to turn over it and potentially becomes people owning it, do you plan on putting it, how do they report to the property management? Does it turn over to an HOA?
Yeah, ideally, we would, that's not the long-term goal, but we're future-proofing it in case the market does change, because we've seen markets change so much, that before we sold the first unit, we would impose an HOA on the entire thing, and then as each sold, they would become a part.
Do you have an interest in keeping the rentals lower and going ahead and having some ownership sold, having people go ahead and buy ahead of time so that there's more community buy-in, so that it's not just all rentals?
I mean, we would definitely look at it. That's also part of the phasing component too, as we let the market dictate it. So you've got
I know in metro counties, they keep it at like 10 to 25% rentals.
yeah.
And, if you want to develop an area and you want community buy-in, having home ownership is that key. And just having rentals, you're not gonna get buy-in from the community right off the bat. That's what it seems like so far.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, but the goal is to really let the market speak to it.
Gotcha.
I'll move to another speaker.
Okay, I got a question I just want you to answer for clarity's sake. You mentioned several times that the applicant is going to own the property for the life cycle of the building. Can you give me the life cycle of the building, expected life cycle first?
So, I mean, just like any state-built house, we're associated with a number of home builders, so you got houses in the city that are 100 years old, right? But when they, there could, I guess I should say the life cycle of the development, right? It's really, to the point I made to the last lady, based on the market. So not so much the life cycle of the product, because again, homes last lifetimes. It's really about the life cycle of whether or not this switches to fee simple.
Okay, so I'm quite sure in your business plan, when you came up with this development, there was a particular date that you guys feel the life cycle of the property is gonna basically expire, and at that particular time, you're gonna be changing ownerships, and I think that's the biggest concern for a lot of people in here. Once you change ownership, there's not gonna be any guardrails. If you sell it to an individual, they can turn around and do whatever they want to do with it. And at that particular point, if we do not have an HOA, it's going to have some of the issues that some of the people are talking about here. Now granted, I just moved back here a year ago myself. I'm all for the growth of Woodbury, but I'm also for the controlled growth of Woodbury. And making certain that we don't push the people that have lived a lifetime here. We don't want them to all of a sudden not feel at home. I got an 85-year-old mother here that won't always feel she's at home. And that is my concern, that you could really designate the life cycle of that property could be 10 years. And all of a sudden now we got the first phase of those units and we sold to individuals who could basically turn around and do whatever they please with it. That's my concern.
So, great point. But day one, the goal and the idea for the entire development through build out and through a lifetime is for it to be single owner, if it transitions, if one, two, or more transition to single family, we're still gonna own a portion of it. Still gonna own most of it for a significant amount of time. So it's in our best interest and the best interest of everyone there to have those controls. So I think you would see, we would have to have a homeowners association that imposed pretty stringent maintenance controls, because again, you got one person next door who doesn't mow their grass or paint the house, the rest of the units that we still own are gonna suffer because of that. And then as that cycles out, even when you're trying to sell one unit and somebody bought one 5 units down and they're not mowing the grass, they're not painting the house, it makes it a lot harder to sell that one. So if you had the turn to fee simple, you'd have to have those strict controls that govern maintenance,
And I guess
junk cars.
That would be my question, is after you have sold the unit, the applicants are no longer controlling that. How do you control it? Because you can't, at that particular point, he's gonna be going to his next project.
The HOA board would own it, would control it.
And who's gonna establish the HOA?
We would. So before, and we're talking a very large what if. Again, our goal is to own all of this, forever. But if we went there, then we would have an HOA, the HOA board, we would sit on the HOA board until we didn't own anything left in there. And then we'd be governing, maintenance, aesthetics, everything that an HOA typically controls, junk cars.
Okay, I won't take more time. I think that's something that obviously the council will make sure they're also controlling, would be how that will transition over.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Great question.
I've got a question for the owner. How many different properties does he own in the Woodbury area? And what's he planning on doing with those properties? Because what's gonna happen is, and I know y'all say you got a phase in, but you're gonna build whatever you sell. If you sell it, you're gonna build more. That's just what's gonna happen. I lived in McDonough, Henry County. When I moved there, it was just like Woodbury. In fact, it was less business in McDonough than in Woodbury. There wasn't even a grocery store. We had one small grocery store in Zach's. Everybody talks about people coming into work. I drove for 4 years. I pastored a church. I drove for 4 years, an hour and a half to get away from that. Okay, when I moved to Woodbury, just to get away from all what happened in Henry County because of what y'all are proposing now. You mentioned 600 cars, and I know you're saying it's phased over, but you're gonna build what you sell. If you sell, whatever you sell, you're gonna build more. That's just the way it works. And so what are you gonna do with the other properties? That's what I wanna know too. How close are they to these properties, the property that you own? And what are you planning on doing with that property? Are you gonna build more subdivisions in those areas if it's close to Woodbury? Where are those areas at? You said y'all own several properties. Where are they at?
They vote on that.
So, number one, we have no plans for any other properties that the applicant owns right now. To the conversation the gentleman I over here had earlier is, this is a long-term development as it sits. It's not like we're gonna pop up somewhere else and build the same thing again. But the proposal before the city council now is, and will be before the planning commission, is the 2 variances related to this development, which are driveways and then whether or not the total development can be over 40 acres.
These are cluster homes. That's exactly what your builder, they're calling townhouses, they're apartments. That's exactly what they did in Henry County. I'm telling you. And if that happens in this city, I'm just telling you guys, y'all don't have a clue what's fixing to happen. I mean, it's gonna be, like Candy said about most of the people that live here moved here to get away from that stuff. I sold my house I lived in for 30 years to get away from that. To move to Woodbury where I got some property and some land. I don't wanna see all this. I don't care. If I want a hamburger, I'm gonna drive to Manchester. I would rather drive to Manchester. I don't want a McDonald's and a Burger King and a Walmart and all that kind of stuff popping up over the next few years. I would rather drive to Thomaston. I would rather drive to Manchester because of the fact of how peaceful this place is, and it's all the property and all the land. And I personally don't want all this business. I mean, I want business where buildings are already built. let businesses open there, and the right kind of businesses. That's why some of this stuff, somebody mentioned, Western Auto and all that kind of stuff, they're closing down everywhere, it's not just Woodbury. That's the wrong, those kind of businesses aren't, they're not profiting anywhere like that, so it's gotta be the right kind of business. If we do that, it's gonna end up just like Henry County, that a lot of us tried to get away from. And so you invested your money in your property, in your house, to fix it up, and all that kind of stuff, and now you come here and it's happening here just like it is Forsyth or McDonough or Stockbridge or anywhere else you're talking about where they start to grow. So, I just hate to see it happen. That's just what I think.
Are you receiving any assistance from the federal government in terms of financing? From any governmental agency? Are you going to seek any?
No, this is not Section 8. Again, these are market rent, and the applicant owns this property outright.
So, what happens if you don't fill them up?
That's the whole point of the phasing.
What happens if you don't get enough interest in the first phase?
That's the point of the phasing. It's slowly and incrementally enough that we're confident, based on our experience in the residential market, particularly for sale, that there will be a market for them. And if there's not the rental market, we know that there will be the for sale market, which is one of the reasons why we're requesting the variance for the driveways, so that they have that ability to be transitioned to single family should that be required. And so again, without that variance, we could do the entire development and have on-street parking. It would just hinder the ability to swap to a for sale product should that be.
What you're saying is, you're gonna get this regardless of whether we want it or not.
I'm saying that the request for the variances are what this application is about.
For the request for the variances, we're gonna get this construction whether we want it or not.
I don't know that that's the right question. I think the
Question down here then.
You're gonna build it no matter what, you can say anything about it, we gotta put these people off the damn council here to do shit, we gotta do this damn thing. You're gonna get voted off.
I wanna know, folks, can we put this on the ballot?
Thank you.
Can we put this issue on the ballot coming up in November? Let the people decide what it is they want.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to wait on the mayor to come back, please.
Let me ask you something.
Amanda.
Can you turn that mayor up maybe a little bit?
Go ahead.
I got a coat on.
Let's talk about traffic, traffic study, Marquee Road. Do we have the appropriate site distance?
Mark?
Because that's been a concern.
I'm Mark Ackerpore, I'm a traffic engineer. I've been practicing traffic engineering in Georgia for 32 years. Done about 1,500 traffic studies in Georgia. We didn't measure site distance yet on Barty Road, but it is where this access is proposed is a level, straight section of road. So I didn't see any issue at this point.
We're looking at Excel and decel lanes.
I did a study for that, and there's no turn lane is necessary. We counted Barty, 24-hour volume was 389, and just so folks get a perspective, the standards for putting in a turn lane change when the road goes above or below 6,000 vehicles per day. So Barty has 389, so it's a very low volume road, so there was no need to put turn lanes.
What about on the state highway? State highway?
The state highway, we haven't studied yet. What's gonna happen is we're gonna need to do what's called an ICE, an intersection control evaluation. That happens after this, later on in this process, we actually have to go to the Georgia DOT, since it's a state route, and meet and comply with all of the Georgia DOT standards. So in order to get that permit, we will have to comply. Don't know what the answer is yet.
And that's done, that's done at land disturbance permit time.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. One last question, wetlands. Are you able to work around the wetlands, or you have to mitigate anything? Good?
No impacts are proposed to any of the wetlands, except for there's one perpendicular crossing of this Boulevard Street down here at the bottom end. Doesn't
Right.
impact any wetlands, but it would cross the stream.
Well, I've got 2 out of 3. Can I ask, I'm not sure if I have to ask a question. Thank you.
Okay?
Okay, so what you're asking for from our esteemed city council here is 2 variances, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
If they vote no and don't give you the variances, what is your next course of action?
Well, I think we would look to this plan here.
So you're gonna build out anyway?
Yeah, this has on.
I'm gonna cut it in half, do the 40.
It's a yes or no question. Are you going to build this anyway?
We are going to develop it regardless. We want the variances so that we can build the best development we see possible. Without the variances, you cannot have the driveways accessing these units. You have to have on-street parking, which we don't think is the best outcome. On-street parking is not as good as a driveway, especially for a resident, especially if you do end up switching to a for-sale model.
Right.
And then you also would have to split the property in half and do effectively 2 separate developments, which again, doesn't create the best development. You can't have your boulevard, you can't have your shared parks, it doesn't work as well.
It doesn't work as well for the developer, is that correct?
No, it doesn't work as well for the development and the overall product. We think this results in a better product for the end user. For the folks that live here, it creates a better layout, it creates better use of the lots. It is a more quality product that we think than if you didn't have the variances. Without the variances, you have to have the shared parking, you can't combine the essentially 2 40-acre pieces as necessary. You can still develop them in conjunction, but you'd have to have some division between them.
Okay, so next question is for the city council. Is there anything that we as the public, or that you as the city council can do to stop this development?
That all depends on, the public hearing with the planning commission, and then the public hearing with the council. If we want to stop it, we could.
You're telling the whole group that y'all have the ability to stop the entire, even though it's already been zoned, y'all can stop it.
Yes,
Okay?
we can
What
stop
your
it.
mayor has said it. City council agree?
That doesn't mean we're gonna stop it.
That doesn't mean you're gonna stop, so you're not gonna stop.
We have the
Is that,
power. We
okay?
have the
Well, let's
power.
remember that in November.
We have the power to either approve or deny.
Okay.
And we'll get a recommendation from the city planning commission. They'll recommend to us what action to take. And of course,
Okay.
the city council can do what we want to do.
Well, of course you can. All right. You heard it, folks. Thank you very much.
Hey, I got one question for you, man. Who set the rent? What's the market? What's the rent market?
Yeah, so we would have to look at, we would end up looking at the time that each was constructed, what a comparable home in the area was renting for, and then apply that there. Because I mean, if you're high or low, it dictates who you're gonna pull in, or if you're gonna be able to pull folks in. You know, to another question, we want to set them at least high enough to where you're attracting a quality tenant. Again, our interest is in the whole property, so we look at the market at the time that it's rented out, which, you know, as you heard the civil engineer say, we're probably 2-3 years away from renting out the first one, so things could change. You know, market rents can go up or down. So I just don't want to throw a number out there that's not fair or accurate. And in 3 years you go, hey man, you told me something different. But market rent. I mean, we're not looking at below market rent. Again, to multiple questions, this is not subsidized. But we're also, you know, it would be foolish to price outside of the market. Sir? I don't know what a later rent is. But I know it's really high. I know it's really high. I saw an ad. Yeah. But that wouldn't be market, yeah. I mean, you.
I came in a little late. What's his name? Jeff Lynn's property, right? Even in phase one, okay, you develop, start development, you said 7 to 27 homes?
Yes,
On the first one?
perfect.
Okay. So, if y'all have people beating down your door saying, we really want to make the Woodbury build this, we'll buy, or what's gonna happen when you can't even start selling out the first 27, and it's 2, 3, 4 years, you can't start phase 2. What's gonna stop them from selling out this property to some government-backed people that buy it, and it does turn into low-income
That's
section?
true. We never know in the
There's
housing
no
market crash.
guarantee that you're gonna get these people to pay $1,200, $1,500, $1,800, $2,000 a month rent on the rentals, or whatever you price the single-family homes at. Have you even had interest on your end from your company of people saying, if you build this, we'll come buy the place? Not even one.
I don't work directly for the company, but what I can tell you is we see a specific market need here for these types of units for this market here. That is what the business.
Specific market need from.
Well, that's what we're in the business of, is residential development, sir. So we.
Somewhere in Woodbury.
Well, I mean, as you know, there has not been substantial residential development in Woodbury, but as you know, as a company that is affiliated with some developers and some home builders,
But there's no
we
guarantee
certainly
that you
have.
can even sell out the first phase. There's no guarantee.
So that's also part of the free market and phasing that we're going after. And that's also not the question presented to the council.
That's the question I presented to you.
Okay, I understand, but this is a.
I understand it's a balance of what I can read, you know, but there's no guarantee you're gonna even sell out this first phase. And they may sit there and sit there and sit there and you can't sell them. And you say, I gotta recoup something, so he turns around and sells everything. And someone say, okay, now we can apply for these HUD grants and we'll have low income housing. And then what's gonna come?
Sir, I think that's a slippery slope argument. I do think that when the first house was built in Woodbury that wasn't owner occupied, somebody was taking a risk there on the market, and that there would be homeowners and residents that want to live
That's totally
there.
different time than you're now.
But people still need homes, and we see a need for homes here, and that's part of the phasing.
You ain't gotta talk, Paul. You answered.
Okay.
I have two questions. The main thoroughfare running through the development. Okay, you have an access road coming off of R2.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, my property is next to that access road. In fact, you're gonna border two sides of my property.
This is you?
No, I'm right down here in that corner here.
I'm right next to it.
I own this part, these two, there's a double wide and a house there that we own. We have 6.5 acres. It's right.
I believe their access of RT is below your property.
It is.
Yeah. Did you moved the access from the original, didn't you?
Yeah, we're not here, and it's down here, yes, sir.
Right.
Okay.
So she's here?
No, that's seven.
The access now.
There.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, yeah, 'cause I have, yeah, that's my house right here. Okay, so it's gonna be below, but that's, my main concern is how much are you gonna have to widen and take like on the front yard out to? So you're not gonna have to have an access or a turn lane or anything for
No, you have the
traffic?
biggest.
Are you going to build that right away is what my other
No, that's
question
very
No,
is.
ma'am, that's,
I know it's last phase, but since this road is here, you said you may need that for access for emergency vehicles, that's my question.
That would be phase 11, 20.
Yeah, I know.
2036.
I seen that, yeah.
That there will
But
be no entrances to RT
until that phase has been, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
I have one other question. The other question is, how is this going to impact our property taxes? Who's gonna pay taxes on this property, I mean, going forward, and how's it gonna impact all the rest of us? Because a lot of us are retirees
Yes,
in
ma'am.
this town.
So that's a wonderful question, is the way that we intended in a for rent community, there won't be any comparable sales in there. So the only thing that's setting the market or setting the appraised value for the tax commissioner of Meriwether County is the tax commissioner of Meriwether County. So if you're concerned about a comparable sale here being
No,
high.
I'm not talking about selling them, I'm talking about how are the property taxes on this whole complex going to be handled?
So-
How's that gonna impact like our city taxes too?
Yes, ma'am. So as it builds out, a couple points. Number one, as it builds out, it will increase the tax base within the city, therefore generating more revenue in the city, therefore more revenue into the city, ideally providing an opportunity for decrease in millage rates in both city and county. Number two, if you're concerned about your property tax is increasing or changing, to the extent that this is a rental community, there won't be comparable sales for which the tax commissioner can then use as a comparable sale to say reassess your property. The tax commissioner would only be assessing it based on his estimate, her estimate at the time of what that particular unit is worth. Does that make sense? Kind of?
It's kind of fuzzy, but,
Here, I can say it this way, so, and I have this question come up a lot in zonings. Usually it's people worried about their property value decreasing. But I understand.
No, ours have already increased.
I understand it, I understand the opposite side of that argument, and the cost to build a home, I mean, just the builder's cost on a home is $115, $110 a square foot, which is a lot of times way more than what the existing home next door might be valued at. And so when that assessment happens and they value this new home that cost $110 but sold for $140 a square foot, they apply that $140 a square foot to your number. Under this scenario, that equation comes out of the mix because it's considered one common owner, one common development. It's not taxed the same way as your residential house.
so is it gonna be taxed, that whole development gonna be taxed at a different rate?
It'll be
than like individual homes would be?
No, it's taxed at a residential rate. And actually probably be taxed at a higher rate, because I assume you potentially have a homestead exemption. You may even have, and some folks may even have exemptions based on age, so you wouldn't get those here because you wouldn't have homestead exemptions to the extent they're rental. Well, if you let me know, I'll be there.
Yeah, okay, I appreciate your information.
Any other questions? Okay, go ahead.
On the sewer, is it gonna be on the sewer or is it gonna be?
Yes, sir, these are all serviced by sewer.
So can the city handle that much sewer system now?
Yes, sir, we've actually been in discussions with the city engineer to make sure that there's water and sewer availability. And we had discussions based on the full build out, so the incremental build out,
So
is less of an impact.
they won't have to upgrade the system or anything?
Not that we're aware of.
That'd be it. I was just wondering if it's probably gonna get passed down to taxpayers. They can't handle the sewer, they have to go in and redo the sewer and all that. Down the road. I didn't know if they could handle that in homes or not.
Yes, sir.
So they can handle the whole build out?
Yes, sir.
Thank
Well, I want to ask this question to the mayor and council. How many main leaks have we had in the city of Woodbury in the past 3 months? Where we've had mains blow out?
Leaks?
Right, main leaks.
Yeah, Buck, where's Buck? It wasn't, where'd he go?
y'all.
Buck.
I agree.
Bring the street supervisor here,
Yes,
answer that question. question for you. Mr. Matthews has a question for you.
How many main leaks have we had in the city of Woodbury in the past, say, 90 days to 120 days?
My mind ain't that good.
Approximately.
Mainly,
Mainly.
the last how many days?
Say 120 days.
Last 3 months? I'll say, last 3 months, probably about 10 to 15, mainly.
They shut the water off in most of the time.
Oh, all the time.
But
All the time.
have you guys looked into that to see what type of issues we're having in our infrastructure as far as the mains go? I know because I had 3 main leaks right there close to my house that the mains have blown out. And the next question is, does that put pressure, back pressure, with the amount of volume of water that's going to be coming into the sewer system on the existing lines that we have now?
So, I'm not a wastewater engineer.
I understand,
But
but you deal with this.
as we, again, it's an incremental build out. So we've had discussions with the city engineer about the availability of sewer and water and the ability to load into the system. And we haven't heard any objection or concern. I understand that there has been some leaks, but there is, again, that's part of the phasing process. It's an incremental addition over the next, through 2038.
I worked on the infrastructure as far as the water line for about a year myself here. And we probably had 25, 30 main leaks during that time that the water had to be shut down in the town of Woodbury. And that's the reason I'm asking the question, is it going to put back pressure on our town infrastructure to where we're going to have even more issues with our existing infrastructure?
I wouldn't anticipate any of that, any additional pressure that this would add. Now, part of our exercise as we go through this, and it'd be in conjunction with the city, is where the connections are made to the existing mains. If they're not to the level that they need to be to accept the additional water, or to feed the additional water rather, then we'll have to make those upgrades where we can along the frontage of the property. But yeah, I mean, technically we'll have to go through a process with the city. If the city doesn't have the staff to review it, then we'll have to, they'll regulate to the EPD to be the review entity, but I think the city has the ability to review their own water and sewer. And so, yeah, we'll do all that in conjunction with them, and they won't let us connect unless they deem that that line is acceptable to tie into. And if it's not big enough, then it'll be on the developer to upsize that line too.
So, did y'all consult with him, our engineers about our water and sewer?
Yeah, they've talked to them.
And they said it was good?
Yeah.
With it works.
And good with the Band-Aid.
I will have our engineering firm at the public hearing meeting so they can answer those kind of questions.
That's good.
Who actually handled those questions before when they talked? Who was involved in that? EMI. Any particular person that was handling that?
Well, usually Chip. He's vice president of the company. He's usually the one that's handled that for us.
Is Chip aware of what our system is like now with the issues that we're having every time the water's turned off and we turn it back on? We have not only main leaks, we have service line leaks and things also.
Yeah, he's aware of that, and that's, we've got I think about a $1.5 million contract that we're gonna let next few months, I hope, to install and replace some floor lines.
One more question. The landowner you said that owns the properties around here, is it still the Lindsay's?
It's his entities, he's involved in some of the entities, I don't know what all the exact makeups are.
The reason I saw the property changed over from Jeff Lindsay to what the name is now. Is he still an owner of the property?
Yeah, he still owns this property, he's part owner, I don't know if he owns 100% of it, but he has partners, that's affiliated with his company.
Will his name be affiliated with this project at all? I notice in the areas that he builds homes and stuff, it always says Jeff Lindsay Homes, Jeff Lindsay this.
We have multiple building companies that we operate.
One is Jeff.
One is Jeff Lindsay.
Other
Freedom Builders.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, y'all. Y'all don't like me anyway, but I'm gonna say this right here. I was born and raised in Woodbury, my mother and my grandmother. I left Woodbury because I ain't have no way to Bluetooth. If you build that stuff at your houses and they at a good rate, that'll be a good thing for Woodbury. But can't nobody pay y'all no $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 rent. Payments or however it go. But look around here, all us old, all of us have got old. When they get through year, we gonna be dead and gone anyway. Think about our children, our grandchildren. I got 14 grandkids. Probably would love to be in one of the apartments, but you gotta be affordable. We can't, we just a small town and we can't afford to pay the kind of rent what some people thinking they gonna pay. It would be a good idea because everybody when they get grown, they have to move away. So we don't have nowhere to move to here. But at the same time, you gotta think of what's gonna be good as far as the environment for the people. I just wanted to put that out there. I don't care what y'all say, but I had to say that. Because all of us sitting here, we old. But we got children and grandchildren that might benefit from this.
First of all, I just want to thank y'all for being here tonight and answering the questions, and it's probably not an easy job, but I think my question is more for the council and the mayor. I understand the capacity we have for the water and sewer. We do have the capacity for more water and to supply more water, but I think we're kind of glossing over this whole thing about infrastructure. It was probably earlier this year, I believe, Mayor Garrett, that you told us that our Phase 2 sewer infrastructure plan had to be scaled back due to budget. And I'm trying to just make that make sense in my head. If we're scaling back on infrastructure improvements, but yet they're telling us, or their engineers are telling us, oh, we can handle it, I can't make sense of that.
We're scaling back simply because the financial problem that the city got into and still is in. We had to scale back because the cost of material for this water improvement project have gone up $300,000 or $400,000 since the contract was let. So instead of raising the water bills, we just decided to scale back and put in less water lines. But we still have a plan to put in water lines and valves that we need also. And so the engineers, they're still comfortable with the water supply and the sewer, the ability to dump all that additional sewer into our treatment plant.
Okay, my next question is, excuse me, you mentioned the financial troubles that the city has been in. And I know for a fact that we have not, or the city has not implemented any kind of impact fee schedule or anything like that. And on development of this size, you would think we'd want to collect some money back from that to help us offset the cost of additional police forces or additional infrastructure improvements or whatever it is we need to accommodate this. Even if it is over a 15-year period, I feel like we're going to lose out on collecting fees for something we should have had in place years ago.
Well, as I understand, the developer's going to install all infrastructure, water main.
On site, but not off site.
No, not off site.
That's the question.
Would there be any consideration of the council to, looking forward with development like these coming into our area, would there be any consideration to look at impact fee schedule and reconsider that?
Yeah, we can look at impact fees, sure can. Might be a good thing for us to do.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
We know about it.
Yep.
We know about it.
Okay. Another speaker?
Okay, when I first came in here, I looked at this map and I said, oh my. Oh my. Wow. I tell you, there's too many houses in this amount of space and they're all too close together. Just don't look at it.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I do have one that I thought of that I didn't.
Okay.
Is there gonna be any type of privacy fences around the complex, like where you're close to other homes? Current property owners. Yeah, current property owners. I mean, have you thought about that?
Cause you put them up against mine too. I'm right next door to her.
Razor wire.
In other words, we don't want you here.
But no, I'm just thinking about
My wife
noise,
doesn't want me
noise
to
and
be
that
there, so.
type of thing. When it finally goes in.
Anything to help figure out how to stop it, I will.
Okay. What we've done is a 50-foot buffer surrounding the property. I'd also envision in these rear loads, when they're under common ownership, to have some sort of fencing in the backyard, especially because the residents, dogs, cats, things like that. So yeah, behind the homes, I could see a privacy fence, but then you've got that 50-foot undisturbed buffer as well, which acts as a natural barrier between you and the property.
Sir, I've enjoyed the woods behind my house. I've lived there 60 years. Them trees, there's a tree back there you're gonna cut down that's got my initials. Jim Edwards that lived over here in Mountain View, we met at that oak tree every day. From little kindergarten to probably high school. And we swung out of that tree, but that tree won't be there. You're gonna take away what Woodbury is about, country. We don't want a city. We like our town like it is. Please don't do it.
You want to speak?
I mainly want to address all of you on the board. Y'all forgive me, I don't like public speaking at all. I was born and raised in Henry County. My husband's family has been here since the 80s. Love Henry County, and I remember it being like Woodbury, and I remember the development coming in, and it was great. We all loved it. My dad was a builder. There's not too many roads in Henry County that he didn't build on. There aren't too many streets of subdivisions that he didn't develop. That's what he did before the economy crashed back in the 2000s. I would like to say to the board, the power is in y'all's hand. I know if they're to this state, it's happening. I know the good talk, I know the pretty posters, but I implore y'all to know that y'all have the power to, just like they were just speaking, how he was saying, the privacy fence in the back, they can see that. Y'all can require that. Y'all can require so much of a tree line. Y'all can require privacy for the residents around. Y'all can set the bar on the size of the property, because once you say yes, you will continue to have to say yes. And I'm saying that from someone that worked, like I said, my mom and dad built houses. I ran their company. I've been in these meetings. I've been in the seat these gentlemen are in. And we've also been in the seat of where one was approved in the county, in Henry County. If y'all been there, y'all know they don't say no a lot. Where they tried to say no, and there was the threat of a lawsuit. Because once you say yes to one, you can't say no to the next. And developers have the know-how, they have the specialty employees, that is all that they do. So I ask, I know development's coming, but set the bar high. Really think it through. I know financially for the city, for the county, more will put money in the bank for the community. But I ask y'all to just really set the bar high so that the next time, the next developer, or even they said they've got more property in Meriwether, when they come back again and they say, well, you've already said yes once, the hands are gonna change. Right now, they're kissing up because they're promising you all that this is going to bring, and I'm not saying that it's not. More people, more money, it is what it is. But I ask you to set the bar high, because once you say yes one time,
it will be a fight, a legal fight, to ever say no.
Okay, we do have protective barriers and vegetative buffers and other buffers in our ordinance. They're part of the development regulations, which is something else the developer's got to go through. And all these things will be hashed out at the next two public hearings. And any of you want to come to those public hearings, I encourage you to come to those public hearings, because at the public hearings, there will be minutes taken and there will be votes taken. So come out and we have those public hearings, which will be September 3rd at 7 o'clock with the City Planning Commission. And on September the 23rd, there will be a public hearing before the full council. And the council will consider what the Planning Commission has recommended. And then, of course, the City Council has the authority to make the final decision. And we, like I said in the beginning, I called this town hall to hopefully get some questions answered and to hopefully dispel some of these rumors that I see from time to time, people tell me about on Facebook. So I hope this meeting has informed the public a little bit better and that you understand a little bit better. Yeah, I understand you don't have any, I understand you still have opinions, that's fine, it's no problem. Hopefully we got some facts out there too today. Okay, Cindy?
So, Mr. Mayor, are you telling us as of right now that these people is not, have not already been approved to build these buildings? Because see, that's what everybody's thinking,
No.
like, you just said it a while ago now. You said it's gonna happen, you said it was gonna happen. So, we as people, we wanna know, what do you mean by it's gonna happen, and you just here to get the, okay, about the variance?
Now, this town hall was about information to the public. That's all that is. The public hearing is where some of these other detailed and legal questions will be answered.
So when he made that, statement that it's not true, when he said it's gonna happen?
No.
This property is zoned already under the RMA zoning district. The council has not approved any variances for this property. The city has not approved any permits for this property. There are developments that can be done on this property as a matter of right, just like there are developments that can be done on any property as a matter of right. That's what I was saying, is there are things that can be done as a matter of right. Just like if you had a single family, one single family lot. You could build a house there, but let's say you want to build your porch on the setback. You gotta get a variance for that. That's what we're here about. We're here about seeking approval for specific elements of a development on this property. Then it comes time to permit. So yes, there are, on any property, anywhere, there is stuff that can always be done as a matter of right. We're asking for approval for variances to do things that aren't permitted as a matter of right, such as driveways and development size, if that makes sense. And then even after that, you still have to go through other permitting process approvals.
David?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Council, audience. I'm Dave Williamson. I am the chair of the Planning and Zoning Committee. We will be meeting next Tuesday. We'll go through some of those particulars from 7 to 8, and then we'll have our meeting. Public meeting will be at 7. All that we will be discussing are these two variance requests. Okay? Infrastructure, that's up to these folks up here. That's not my committee. Okay? So I just want to let you know that ahead of time. If you've got any concerns concerning these variances, come on out and listen to us. But if it's something other than these two variances, it's not going to be heard. Just to let you know. But then there will be the meeting at the end of September. Bring all your questions back. They got strong shoulders. Thank you. Yeah, any other questions?
What are the plans for children, families with children? How many, is there a set number of children that family can have to rent a duplex?
We don't, you can't discriminate based on the number of children people have, but these will generally be 2 to 3 bedrooms depending on what they are or where they're located.
So you don't have anywhere, a child doesn't have anywhere to play or?
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Playground or?
So there's 5 park areas throughout the development. We're also gonna have walking areas throughout. There will be, children's playgrounds,
For different age groups?
of course.
And supervised,
Ma'am?
you have to have supervised playgrounds now.
She said you have to have
Supervised.
Oh, no, ma'am. Passive playgrounds.
What about a baseball court? Mom and Dad do it. Y'all don't have that on the playground?
A baseball field?
Baseball court.
Basketball court.
Oh, we hadn't
They don't
gotten
have
that
that
far.
in the city of Woodbury.
We could definitely consider a
They don't
basketball.
have that in the city of Woodbury.
Great idea.
Dang good answer. He just did exactly what they said.
Okay.
He gonna say what he wants to hear.
Based on this, rental transitioning into possible.
He gonna say what he needs to say.
Based on this on rentals and then maybe transitioning into ownership, correct? Is there a reason that you don't develop and sell without the rental?
Because we see a market for the rental component here. And that's what we're proposing on this property. And that's what we think there will be an uptick in the market.
So what you're really saying is you're gonna have an income stream for rental to develop the property.
I think the owner has selected a rental model for this property because that's what they've chosen to do. I mean, any.
Well, I understand that, but I was just concerned, or not concerned, but wondering why, like a lot of subdivisions are built, sell the house, build, sell the house. Why not do that instead of go through the rental?
Yeah, you know, in recent years, there has been a showing in the market and companies developed solely for single-family style homes that the entire community is rental-based for a variety of reasons. Number one is that there is a preference in the market that wasn't there at sometime previously for folks who enjoy the ability of A, they don't make a down payment, B, the maintenance outside, inside, and throughout the common areas taken care of. C, also, you know, they may not, there's an increasing demand in the market for folks not to be committed to a home for a long period of time. You have folks that, you know, maybe you're active military, maybe you've got a nursing job you're gonna change, maybe you only plan to be here for a couple years, things like that. So really just the market shift to folks that really wanna be in a community that all the maintenance is taken care of, but you've still got all the benefits of a stick-built, vertical, single-family home.
I understand what you're saying, but I believe I know more people that would rather own their own home. Generally, it's cheaper than renting.
And there are folks who, you know, feel differently.
It goes both ways.
Yes, sir.
I just wondered if there's a possibility of it going that way.
I mean, right now we see in the market the demand for this type of product. That doesn't mean that there isn't also the demand for the for sale product. But this community is targeted to the segment of the market that enjoys that aspect.
And you said if you do buy a property, you're gonna be subject to an HOA in that area?
Oh, absolutely. And if you're renting, you'll be subject to the same and if not heightened standards. Because you also have to maintain the inside. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to adjourn this town hall meeting now, because we've got a city hall, we've got a city council meeting started at 7 o'clock.